Hello, dear participants. My name is Sibilla Martinelli. My colleague Juliane and I are the national contact points for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions in Switzerland, meaning we are your specialists when it comes to MSCA. Here are two facts about us. First, we really love our job. One of the reasons why is because it is very international. And second, we cannot read and listen at the same time. Can you? We have decided for you that you should mainly listen in this presentation, and so we have taken the reading off your hands. There won't be a lot of information on the slides in this presentation, but for further information, you can find our fact sheets on our webpage or contact us. 25 years ago, this program was founded. Marie Curie was the name giver because her life, her path, and attitude reflect the main features of this program: excellence and mobility. She was a physicist and chemist who conducted pioneering research on radioactivity. She was the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, the first and the only woman to win the Nobel Prize twice, and the only person to win the Nobel Prize in two scientific fields. Also, she was the first woman to become a professor at the University of Paris in 1906, 15 years after she moved from Warsaw to Paris. The MSCA, Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, are open to all domains of research and innovation, and they are chosen freely by the applicants in a fully bottom-up manner. So no predefined topics here. They will contribute to excellent research by equipping researchers with new knowledge and skills and providing them with an international as well as intersectoral exposure. And they also contribute to the development of excellent doctoral programs, or also postdoctoral training programs and collaborative research projects. The MSCA are based on the principle of physical mobility. Researchers who receive funding have to move from one country to another to acquire new knowledge, skills, and competencies and develop their research careers. Researchers are also strongly encouraged to move between sectors and disciplines. Coming with this so-called triple I dimension is a strong collaboration with industry and SMEs. The MSCA are now in their 25th year of supporting careers and training of researchers. Up to now, they supported more than 65,000 researchers, of which 45% were women. The financial management of Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions differs considerably from other research projects in Horizon Europe. In the MSCA, the EU contribution is based on unit costs expressed in person month. It will be automatically calculated from the information provided in Part A of the proposal using the rates and coefficients given in the work program. Unit costs organized in several cost categories are used instead of funding rates. And the different cost categories cover the salary of the fellows as well as their research and training costs and costs related to project implementation. The amounts of the unit costs are subject to annual changes. These are stated in the work program for the respective year. So there are 5 Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions: doctoral networks, staff exchanges, postdoctoral fellowships, co-fund, and MSCA and citizens. I will hand over now to my colleague Juliane, who will introduce you to the MSCA doctoral networks.
Thank you very much, Sibylla. So I will continue now with DN, doctoral networks. These used to be called Innovative Training Networks, ITN. As the name says, these are networks, so multi-beneficiary actions, focusing on training doctoral candidates. And as in all Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, the training here focuses strongly not only on research skills, but also on transferable skills in order to enhance the career development of the researchers under strong and good supervision with a very, very strong international aspect as well. who can take part. Can you forward the slide, please? Thank you. Universities, research institutions, businesses, research infrastructures, etc. One consortium should consist of at least 3 independent legal entities in 3 different EU member states or associated countries. One of these beneficiaries must be located in an EU member state. That is one of the new rules and regulations of Horizon Europe. But on top of this minimum, any entity from any so-called third country can also join. All of these beneficiaries, could you just click, please? Thank you. All of these beneficiaries must at least recruit 1 doctoral candidate, and these doctoral candidates are required to be hosted at the institution, physically be there, and they must be supervised there. Or you can use a so-called associated partner linked to the beneficiaries to do so. 1 click, please. Thank you. There's a difference between the beneficiaries, what I just said, and the so-called associated partners. So beneficiaries are those who directly sign the grant agreement, the contract with the European Commission. They are the ones who are in charge of the recruitment, and they have to provide training, and they are part of the supervisory board, whereas the associated partners do not sign the grant agreement. They cannot directly recruit, but they can also offer training and the hosting of seconded researchers. If you could just click, because then the graphic enlarges, what you can see here is this secondment. The idea is, within this consortium, you send your doctoral candidate also to the other beneficiaries and associated partners so that they can spend the time at the other institution to learn more, to expand the horizon, possibly also to change sectors. Now, all these researchers who are recruited, who can be recruited? They must be doctoral candidates, so cannot yet hold a PhD. They must be enrolled in a doctoral program during the stay within this consortium. They can be of any nationality from all over the world, but they must follow the mobility rule. And the mobility rule is a researcher at the respective date of recruitment must not have resided or carried out the main activity in the country of the future host organization for more than 12 months immediately before the recruitment date. How big can such a doctoral network be? In the middle here, you can see the smaller classical size of a doctoral network in its purest form. You can ask for 360 person months. That means you can recruit 10 researchers, each one for 3 months. But it might be you have already strong links in your discipline to the industry or to other universities and you want more. So you could also apply for an industrial network, and that means that the researchers that you recruit are jointly supervised by somebody from industry and from academia, and that there is really a training in both sectors taking place. Or you apply for a joint doctoral network, where the goal is these joint collaborations are that the doctoral candidate receives a double degree from 2 universities or maybe even more so. But this is only possible if your institution already has pre-existing connections and pre-agreements legally binding in place. But in these cases, the industrial and the joint doctorate, you can ask for an additional 180 person month. You can really enlarge your network. Now, let's see on the next slide how much money you would get and how much money the researchers get. You can see there are a couple of cost categories, and all this is counted via this unit cost, the person month. A researcher who is recruited within a doctoral network receives as a living allowance 3,400 euro. On top of that, 600 euro. And if they also sustain family members, 660 euros on top of that. There are 2 further contributions in case somebody takes a long-term leave or needs a special needs allowance. You can leave these out for the moment, but just that you know this is covered as well, for example, for parental leave or for sick leave. So living, mobility, and family allowance go to the researcher. The living allowance is multiplied with the country correction coefficient, so can slightly vary in order to make up for different heights of the living standards in the different countries. This will then become the researcher's salary, but it will be taxed, for example. On the right-hand side of the table, you can see the institutional cost contributions. So there is money, 1,600 euros per researcher month that goes to the recruiting institution to cover any kind of training expenses the researchers might have, so that you can buy a new laptop, that there is money to buy, for example, for experiments, the necessary infrastructure and so on, or to organize training events. And 1,200 euro each month go to the institution. They belong there. They are thought to cover the management and indirect contributions. There is a certain flexibility in these amounts because they can be also shared among the consortium up to a certain extent. If a partner has more training expenses, this can be handled within the consortium. Thank you. Next slide. Award criteria are the same all over Horizon Europe. There's always 50% of a proposal that counts for excellence, 30 that counts for impact, and 20 that counts for implementation. Excellence is really not only the research excellence that you have to describe, furthermore, the training. What do you offer in terms of training? How can you improve then the training and career chances for the researchers? The impact does not cover only, well, the expected output and outcome of the research projects, but much more important here in these doctoral networks is the impact on the researcher's career and also on the partaking institutions. And implementation is the project management part. How is your project overall run and managed, for example, also with regards to risk assessment? This call is expected to open on May 18th of this year, with an expected closure date on the 16th of November. And as you can see, it's one of the larger Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions budget-wise, with a budget, an overall budget of more than 402,000 euro. Million euro, of course.
Okay, thank you very much, Juliana. I take over again with the Marie Skłodowska-Curie staff exchanges. And this action funds actually short-term exchanges of personnel between academic, industrial, and commercial organizations throughout the world. It helps people develop their knowledge, their skills and careers, and at the same time builds links between organizations working in different sectors of the economy, including universities, research institutes, or SMEs. The organizations constituting the partnership contribute directly to the implementation of a joint R&I, as a research and innovation project, by seconding and or hosting eligible staff members. Such a project must explore activities that can be based on previous work, but they should go beyond this and generate or strengthen long-term collaborations. Such a project can last up to 4 years. Proposals must include at least 3 partners, which can be academic or non-academic organizations, and must be from 3 different countries. At least 2 of these should be from the EU or from a country associated to Horizon Europe. And partners, on top of that, partners from further field can also join. If all participating organizations are from the same sector, it may be academic or non-academic, there must be at least one organization from a non-associated third country. MSCI staff exchanges can address 3 dimensions of mobility: intersectoral, international, and interdisciplinary. While exchanges between organizations within EU member states and Horizon Europe associated countries should mainly be intersectoral, Same sector exchanges are also possible under the condition that they are interdisciplinary. Sorry. Interdisciplinarity is not required, though, for same sector exchanges with third countries. Secondments between institutions established in third countries are not eligible, and neither are exchanges within the same country. Interdisciplinary secondments in the same sector are now possible within Europe, so it's complicated. Staff can be sent on secondments for 1 to 12 months per person. And the secondments of staff should be essential to achieve the joint project's R&I activities. Research staff of any nationality and at any career level, so from PhD preparation to experienced researchers, can undertake a secondment with within such a project. Also, staff members working in managerial, technical, or administrative roles can be seconded. It's just that seconded staff must be actively engaged in or linked to R&I activities for at least 1 month, full-time equivalent, at the sending institution before the first period of secondment. And after the secondment, the staff must be reintegrated into the sending institution. From people who participated in staff exchanges, we hear that some things were really beneficial. On an individual level, staff benefited mostly from the international exposure, from gaining new transferable skills and competencies, or from the networking resulting in better employability and career prospects for them. Organizations will benefit from transfer of knowledge. They can get access to know-how and R&I capacity, as well as collaborative networks. A top-up allowance of €2,300 per month is paid for the benefit of the researcher. Furthermore, the sending institution receives €1,300 per month for research and training costs and €1,000 per month for management costs. Important to note that participating organizations are expected to continue paying the salary of the staff during the secondments. So no salaries are paid from the EU, but it's just a top-up allowance. The maximum EU contribution in a staff exchange project is 360 person month per project. For the MSCA staff exchanges, there are the same 3 award criteria as for the other Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions: excellence, impact, and implementation. For the sake of time, I will not go into further detail here. However, again here, if you're interested, please get in touch with us, and we are really happy to give you more information. The 21 MSCA SE call opens on 7th of October this year, with a deadline on 9th March next year, and with a budget of €72.5 million. This is roughly a third of the budget of the postdoctoral fellowships. You see here, these have a budget of €242 million for the 21 call. The fellowships offer funding for excellent researchers with excellent projects, and also for their training and acquisition of skills. Like this, they aim at fostering excellence through implementation of a research project. And they build bridges to the non-academic sector and are open to all scientific fields. They come in the form of an European and global fellowship. The European postdoctoral fellowships are for researchers coming to Europe from any country in the world, or for researchers moving within Europe. These fellowships last 12 to 24 months, and from this year on, they no longer come with separate panels. Like, for example, last year we had the Society and Enterprise panel or the reintegration panel. This year, it's just the regular European postdoctoral fellowships. Um, European fellowships can include secondments worldwide, up to 1/3 of the fellowship duration. This is new. Up to now, secondment hosts could only be located in EU member states or associated countries, but now worldwide secondments are possible. And new, there is also the option of an additional placement of up to 6 months in a non-academic European organization at the end of the fellowship. This applies to the European, but also to the global fellowships. These are for researchers going to countries outside EU member states or associated countries for 12 to 24 months in an outgoing phase, and then returning for a 12-month mandatory stay. This is the so-called return phase in Europe. So the total duration of these fellowships can be from 24 to 36 months. And secondments can also be hosted worldwide and can last up to 1/3 of the fellowship duration here. And also for the global fellowships, there's an option to include an additional placement of up to 6 months in a non-academic European organization at the end of the fellowship. Legal entities like universities, research institutions, businesses who are located in an EU member state or Horizon Europe associated country can apply as hosting institutions, together with a researcher who is proposing a research project. If funded, the project will be carried out by the researcher under the supervision of a PI at the hosting institution. The hosting institution will be the beneficiary of the action and receive the money from the EU if the fellowship is funded. So the hosting institution will hire the fellow on a regular working contract, will pay salaries, etc. In global fellowships, the return host in Europe will be the beneficiary and pay the fellow's salary. I would like to come back briefly to the option of including secondments to the fellowship. Secondments could have been included during the fellowships for years already, but only in European countries. So now they can be international. And moreover, there is now the option of spending additional 6 months in a non-academic institution after the fellowship. From 2016 until last year, there was a specific panel dedicated to proposals carried out at non-academic host institutions. This is not discontinued, but the additional 6-month secondment was introduced to further bridge between the academic and the non-academic sector. Recruited researchers can be of any nationality in European fellowships, but in global fellowships, these are only for nationals or long-term residents of member states or countries associated to Horizon Europe. Eligible researchers must be in possession of a PhD at the call deadline and have a maximum of 8 years research experience after PhD. But of course, there are exceptions, for example, in case of career breaks or work outside research, etc. And the mobility rule applies also here. This has been unified as there are no longer any different implementation modes or panels in these fellowships. So there is the one and only mobility rule that says that an eligible researcher should not have resided in the country of the future host institution for more than 12 months in the 36 months prior to the call deadline. In MSCA postdoctoral fellowships, every researcher needs to have a supervisor appointed by the hosting institution. This person should be chosen wisely with regards to the content of the proposed research and also with regards to training needs of the researcher. This year, the European Commission will come up with new guidelines on supervision to ensure that researchers are adequately supervised in the MSCA postdoctoral fellowships also. So the EU covers costs related to the recruitment process of the researcher, but also here research, training and networking costs are covered. So you see here in the MSCA PF, the living allowance is 5,080 euro per month. This is corrected with a country correction coefficient as well as in the doctoral networks. Then there is a mobility allowance of 600 euro per month, and if applicable, a family allowance of 660 euro per month. Also in the postdoctoral fellowships, there are the long-term leave allowances that can be applied for, and also the special needs allowance. Then the institutional unit contributions are 1,000 euro per month for research training and networking costs, and 650 euros per month for management and indirect costs. So also here, as Juliane explained before, the living, the mobility, family allowance go directly to the researcher in the form of a salary most of the times, but not all the time. And then the 1,000 euro per month for the research training and networking costs will be paid to the researcher if a researcher goes to conferences or needs certain reagents for an experiment, things like that. And the 650 euro per month go to the institution that is hosting the researcher. The 2021 postdoctoral fellowship call will open on 18th May this year, with a deadline on 15th September 2021. And as I mentioned already on a previous slide, the call budget for this year's call for the postdoctoral fellowships is 242 million euro. And with this, I give to Juliane the floor or the slide again.
Thank you, Sibylla. So we are going to continue with the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions co-fund. Co-fund stands in short for co-funding of doctoral and fellowship programs. And the idea here is that one entity steps into the shoes of a funding agency and sets up the own doctoral or fellowship program. Why? It's not only financing the researchers, but also the aim of spreading the best practices of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, again, including the triple I dimension. So having an international focus, being intersectoral, and ideally also interdisciplinary. And very important, of course, is again, the mobility of the researchers. Let's have a look how this works. So the idea is this is a mono-beneficiary action, no consortium. One legal entity sets up their own doctoral program or fellowship program for postdoctoral fellows with the aim of recruiting at the minimum 3 researchers. Knowing these actions a little bit from practice, 3 researchers is not very much for everything that you have to do. So maybe aim a little higher depending on the scope and size of your institution and what your aim is, of course. Secondments and very clear and good supervision play an important role again. Secondments can be done then to partner associations. These can be, for example, again, companies or any other legal entity that is possible, and they can also be done worldwide. Next slide, thank you. Who can you recruit? If you wish to recruit doctoral candidates, you will set up a doctoral program. If your focus lies rather on the human resource development of postdoctoral researchers, you're going to set up a so-called fellowship program. You can do either or, but you cannot hand in one project that suits both target groups. You have to decide for which one. Technically, you can also at the same call hand in 2 proposals, one on a doctoral level, the one on the fellowship level. But then again, these are different projects which will also be evaluated differently. All researchers who are recruited must follow a very good setup of a career development plan, including, again, transferable skills, and they must follow the mobility rule. They cannot have been longer for 12 months in the past 36 months in the country of the future host organization. You'll see that is always repeated. Next slide, please. Thank you. 1 million euro is the maximum that one legal entity, one beneficiary can ask for in one call. The whole overall program will last 60 months, but one fellowship can last anything from 3 months to however long you want to make it. For example, for a fellowship program, the usual duration very often is 2 years. For a doctoral program, very often the length of the fellowship that makes most sense is 3 years. The EU contribution, there we go, is 70% of the living and mobility allowance. Have a look here. For a doctoral program, you will get 2,800 euros per person month. For a postdoctoral program, so fellowships, you will be paid by the European Commission 3,980 euro. But these are only 70% of the minimum amount you have to pay for researchers. As a whole, one doctoral student has to receive as much money as given to him or her in a doctoral network, namely 4,000 euros. So you have to come up with the rest. For a postdoctoral student, you have to top up the whole thing again with 30%, which will be, let me just check, which will be 1,700 euros that you have to pay on top. The EU really places an importance on having good salary conditions for the recruited researchers. There's also money in cases of long-term leave or special needs allowances, but there is no additional institutional or training contribution. That used to be the case, but this is not the case anymore. However, what you get from the European Commission, you can also use flexibly. Let's continue. Again, we have the same evaluation criteria: excellence, impact, and implementation. And not wanting to go into all the details at this occasion, either contact us, but also keep in mind your excellence is not only the research excellence, it's about the training. It's also, for co-funds in particular, the transparency of how you recruit and select researchers. This cannot be predefined by you or the supervisors. This says they have to go through a whole transparent, open, merit-based recruitment process. Let's continue. The call will open this autumn on the 12th of October, and it will close on the 10th of February next year with an overall call budget of 89 million euro. That was co-fund. Let's continue with the MSCA and Citizens, which used to be called Researchers' Night. Why? Because it's not only with Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions about the training and the funding of researchers and research, but also about bringing research and researchers closer to the public. How is this done? With a huge event that takes place all over Europe every third Friday night, evening in September. It's Europe-wide in many cities. People can go there. It's sort of a huge, gigantic open door of science. This year, content-wise, it's going to focus on the Horizon Europe thematic missions, for example, cancer or climate. You would apply for 2 years consecutively, and in such a proposal, you outline clearly what you want to do, how you want to do it, with whom, and so on. You don't ask for your dream sum, you ask for a lump sum between 50 to 150,000 euro per annual edition. You can ask once for 2 consecutive years. The call is going to open on the 17th of June this year and closing on October the 7th, 2021. And as you can see with the tiny small dot, this is one of the smaller Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions in terms of budget, with an overall budget of 15 million euro. So these was our overview about all of the MSCA. And Sibylla now is going to sum it up again for you.
Yes, exactly. Thank you a lot. So to conclude, and after all, this event was promoted by asking what's new for the MSCA in Horizon Europe. So I will summarize some principles and novelties of the MSCA in Horizon Europe now. We touched upon some new features already of the different actions, but all in all, we can say that actions were streamlined. They have a clear identity because there are no longer the different sub-actions, the different implementation modes, or the specific panels. So this gives, all in all, a clear identity. The rules became simpler, conditions were harmonized. For example, there's only one single mobility rule now for all actions. Yeah, definitions were fine-tuned, so the former early stage researchers are now called doctoral candidates, and the formerly called experienced researchers are now called postdoctoral researchers, which makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. With regards to manage the demand, a restriction on resubmission will be introduced from 2022 calls onward. But importantly, this doesn't apply to the 21 calls. Yeah, this is only applying from 22 onwards. New guidelines on supervision will be published to ensure that all researchers in Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions are adequately supervised. And sustainable behaviors and policies will be promoted through MSCA Green Charter, yeah, Green Deal thematic clustering events, etc. Yes, family allowances will be accessible to all, even if their parental status changes during the duration of the project. And this is clearly in the interest of non-discrimination and equal opportunities, because up to now, the family status was determined at the time, at the date of the call deadline, and didn't change afterwards, even if somebody received a baby 2 days afterwards, or got married. So the long-term allowance, in case of the researcher's leave, this is including maternity, paternity, parental leave, sick or special leave. This is introduced newly also. Yes, and there's a broader definition now of family to ensure full access to these allowances for everyone, if applicable. The intersectoral exposure will also be encouraged through incentives, like we here heard in the course of the presentation. The proposal submission will still be done through the funding and tender opportunities portal. And also there, all the important documents like the work program or the guide for applicants will be published. And these documents are, especially the guide for applicants, is published on the respective call page. And this is only done upon call opening. Here are some useful links if you're interested in knowing more about different things that we touched upon in this talk, in this event. Yes, and as an EU, as a non-EU member state, Switzerland has to negotiate its association to Horizon Europe. Political negotiations are still ongoing, and Switzerland expects to be able to participate in Horizon Europe and is committed to this objective, actually. But for detailed information on this topic, please check the dedicated webpage by the State Secretariat for Education, Research and Innovation, indicated on this slide. And here's a pointer to our U-Research network, which is divided into 10 regions in Switzerland. Many of you might know someone in a given regional office, and usually the regional offices are your first point of contact, but it's always possible to contact Juliane and myself, us directly. We are the two national contact points I mentioned in the beginning of this presentation. If you have very specific questions concerning the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, you can always contact us via msca@uresearch.ch. Yes, and with this, I would like to close this presentation and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.